and welcome to the comic book review
of Ultimate Spider-Man 200.
Now, Ultimate Spider-Man 200 is a really kind of big milestone for the Ultimate Spider-Man issues. When we get started, we open up on Miles and Gank. You really get to see more of Gank's nerdiness. Gank hits on Legos, while Miles hits on being more interested in going for Spider-Man. He really wants to go to support Spider-Man and to be there for everybody. And Gank is like, I've got a box of Legos.
And I just love whenever they do the Miles and Gank scenes because I love their friendship. Miles is always like insulting Gank's nerdiness, and he's like, do you really have to do that? And Gank is just like, don't worry about it. It's gonna be fine.
And there's always been speculation that Gank was maybe gay, maybe not, maybe liked Miles, maybe didn't. And you get a little bit more into it in this issue than you do in most of the other ones.
And then in the next scene, we get the first Mary Jane shot. And it is her with her new boyfriend, apparently, who looks very similar to Peter. And he has like the same facial structure, just an older looking guy. He can rock a blazer.
He can rock some swoopy hair too.
Yes, the hair is pretty
something that Peter never really could get right. And all of the art that there was done of him, there was always that part down the middle.
And anyway, in the scene, it's Mary Jane arriving to Peter's second anniversary of his funeral. And she's already uncomfortable. She doesn't want to go to her ex-boyfriend, who she loved more than anything. She doesn't want to go to his funeral.
I wouldn't either.
Yeah, pretty much no one would. And she's arriving with her new boyfriend, which already makes her even more uncomfortable.
The swoopy-haired Liam.
Yes. And she's just like, Liam, I'm already uncomfortable because I just don't think it's okay that you're here. Can you please go? And he's like, yeah, sure, babe, that's fine. Don't worry about it. And the funny thing is, when he's walking off, she says, just don't get hit by a car.
Which is definitely a weird thing to say to somebody, especially since your previous boyfriend literally hit someone to death with a car. And then you get over into Jessica and Bombshell, which is, to me, Bombshell's not really that important of a character when it comes back to the whole Peter crew, the beginning of everything. Bombshell was kind of one of the last ones to be introduced, and she didn't have technically a personal relationship with Peter, but I love that they throw in Jessica True. Spider-Woman is one of my favorite characters that was ever created from cloning, which is a super cool kind of addition to it because you don't see a whole lot of characters that become main characters that are added because of cloning and for cloning right before they almost hit Liam with their car. Also, Lana was one of the few women in the Ultimate Universe that Peter met that he didn't eventually hook up with.
And then in this next scene, which is really one of, like, it's the best entrance, the remembrance, that's what we're just gonna call it now, the remembrance.
The remembrance.
The remembrance of Peter, AKA Ultimate Spider-Man. And it shows Firestar flying through the city, who was Liz Allen, who was one of Peter's first high school crushes. She was very anti-mutant. Her family was racist against them, and the funny part is she later figured out she was one. She's basically like a female Human Torch.
Freaking mutants. See, and then it comes down to the introduction of not only Firestorm, but also the Human Torch and also Bobby. And it's probably one of the better entrances because Bobby is flying right between two flame spheres and immediately melts, potentially into a puddle of nothingness.
Yes.
Then we come to the actual remembrance, and we get to see quite possibly nerdiest picture of Peter that has ever been in existence or has ever created. They feel like they went back through all of the issues and they were like, he was a little bit nerdy here, a little bit nerdy here, and a little bit nerdy here, combined all of them and threw into a picture frame for everyone to see and for everyone to remember Peter by.
And it even shows the email that Aunt May sent out to everybody just to come hang out and remember Peter and to just talk to each other again after a long time. And it says, to commemorate the second anniversary of our dear Peter's untimely passing,
the remembrance.
We're having a small get-together at the house. This is a celebration of his life, not a mourning of his passing. There will be food, drink, and friends. I truly believe Peter would want us to do this and would want you there. I hope to see you there. Please RSVP May Parker.
The food and drinks are really what brought me in. I'm a huge food and drinks fan, especially if they're free.
I love the hug that Aunt May gives Miles. They formed a great relationship ever since she found out he was the new Spider-Man. I love the scene in the past issues where she gave Miles Peter's old web shooters and says, stop focusing on what Peter would do, focus on what Miles would do. And that still kind of didn't happen with him because he still is like, what would Peter do? But I can kind of understand that.
He wants to be Peter. He wants to live up to Peter's reputation, and I'm glad that they at least threw in a replacement for him that had a lot of respect for him, had a lot of respect for his legacy, and a lot of respect for just remembering who he was and what he did. And that kind of leads into the awkward relationship, again, between Gank and Gwen Stacy and their apparently mutual love for Legos. Gang not only made her something out of Legos, but also stalked her enough on Facebook to find out that she enjoyed them. And, you know, the awkward Lego present panned out for him in the end.
And then here's the funny part, that the present actually worked on Gwen, and she just plants a fat kiss right on Gang's lips, and everyone in the house is just shocked.
I'm not sure if they're more shocked by the kiss or they're more shocked by the fact that Gang may or may not be gay.
Yes. And then there's a funny little banter. Between Johnny Storm and Iceman in this issue, the banter is just hilarious. And it says, and Johnny says, "Way to nail that down, bro. Well done."
I'm really glad that they brought Johnny and Ice back into the fray for this one, because they were such great characters and they were such great friends with Peter, and I really liked the introduction of them into the team that they kind of formed while they were all living together. And it just really made for a lot more fun in the comics, and I feel like it really gave Peter a friendship base before he actually died.
And then this next scene, it shows someone's knocking on the door, and it's Pepper Potts. She shows up and she brings catering provided by Tony, who couldn't show up even though he was invited to the remembrance. She's like, Tony was touched by the invitation, but he couldn't make it, so here is all this food presented by apparently this famous chef in the Ultimate Universe, Chester Chabolsky?
Chester ciabatta bread.
Ciabatta bread.
Chester ciabatta bread, and right after the introduction of all of the food, brings in yet another character. Kitty Pryde jumps in, phases right through the wall, and you get a little bit of introduction as to what she's been up to and what she's been doing, which leads to the probably most surprising introduction and probably the most surprising jump into the story, which would be Kong. He may or may not have smelled the food and come running, or he may have come for Peter. We don't 100% know, and that led into the even more awkward than Gwen and Gang's relationship, the incredibly awkward relationship between Kong and Kitty Pryde.
They were a couple for a little while. He just kind of disappeared. Apparently, like his family moved away after all this superhero business.
Next is my absolute favorite introduction of all of the people brought back, probably one of the most heartwarming and touching introductions. J. Jonah Jameson sitting across the street in his limo, so distraught and so sad over the death of Peter and how he treated Spider-Man and Peter, and just the whole dynamic of their relationship that he can't even actually make it into the funeral. I'm really glad that they kind of brought him back in and tied him back in. Next goes into the introductions of what everybody thinks Peter would be doing now, and into my personal favorite, Mary Jane's introduction of the future, and the fact that she was talking to Nick Fury when he came into her room with a single tear dropping from his single eye, talking about how he would have been grooming Peter to be not only a superhero, but not only the superhero, but the ultimate hero. She feels like he was planned to lead the Ultimates. He was planned to be the best of all of the heroes. He was going to be better than Captain America, better than the Hulk, better than everyone. He was going to be the hero. And I like that they also include Miles and Cloak and Dagger in the background of that one to really give it kind of a feel of what it would be like in the future with everyone involved in it.
They also put in this sweet new costume that I wish would happen at some point to any Spider-Man. It's like an ultimate version of the Iron Spider outfit, and it looks awesome.
A really sweet jump in and a really sweet costume that everybody kind of can get something out of. On this one, the next page is kind of a really interesting concept with it being Aunt May's. Aunt May really wanted Peter to be, she wanted him to achieve science, she wanted him to achieve something great, she wanted him to do something in the science field, but she thought that he would definitely not want to quit being Spider-Man. So she thought, oh, maybe Peter will find a way to infuse Spider-Man and technology together. And I like that they also kind of hit on some of the Spider-Mans from the different universes. You get the Iron Spider here, you get to see a symbiote suit kind of Spider-Man, you also get to see a Ben Reilly looking Spider-Man, and I like that they kind of touch in and bring in all of the different Spider-Mans and give kind of a tie-in look at what things would have been like in the Ultimate Universe.
And then next, this is probably my runner-up for my favorite remembrance or like thought of what he would become is Gwen Stacy's. Gwen and Peter were always talking about how it always made Peter angry how Kingpin and all these criminals and mob bosses would get away with all of their crimes. And Peter wanted to go at it from two different ways. He could be Spider-Man and not Peter Parker, the journalist. He wanted to expose and take pictures and all that as the journalist Peter Parker, and then he could go and get all this evidence as Spider-Man, and then totally expose all the criminals so they would stop terrorizing New York City. And I love how that just fits Peter perfectly, and that would have been an awesome, awesome thing.
Going into awesome things, the next one is one of the coolest and one of the best. It really gives a dynamic of what Peter and Miles would have been like together, which is something that I know a lot of fans, especially Cash, are really interested in, is the banter between the two of them.
Yes, This is my favorite one. I know I just said the other one was my runner-up. This is my favorite one. It's what if Peter had survived and him and Miles were two Spider-Man. There are two of them in this scene, and it shows them being like best friends, being partners, and it shows them just chilling, eating on top of a rooftop, and it shows them joking around, and Peter has a post-it note stuck to Miles' head side. It says sidekick on it, and it shows them just an awesome scene done by the original artist who first did the first few Miles issues. It shows them swinging through the city, and it shows Miles, and he's talking, and he's like, I don't know if he would have even liked me. I didn't really know him. I never met him, but I was hoping we could be friends or partners. I could even be his sidekick, but he doesn't know if he would like want to be Spider-Man. He didn't want to step onto Peter's like shoes. He didn't want to just ruin the legacy of Spider-Man. But I would love this if it happened, if Peter somehow came back, if they could just be bros, if they could just be like a partnership of Spider-Man. It's kind of how I wish the mainstream universe, if Ben Reilly came back, how I would want Scarlet Spider, or whatever Ben goes by since Kane is Scarlet Spider now. I would just want them to like team up, be friends, just have awesome Spider-Man team-ups.
The next two were probably some of the more kind of funny and interesting ones. The Kitty Pryde in Spider-Man, it's amazing just to see how long she actually held on to her feelings for Peter. It's amazing to see how much she truly, on a just heartwarming level, cared about him and how much love she actually had for him. I mean, marriage, proposal, everything, which leads me into the funniest and probably my runner-up favorite. You get to see Spider-Man on a motorcycle, which you never really see and you never really think about because Spider-Man web slings everywhere. But, you know, Bobby has quite the imagination.
Obviously, Dylan, you don't go to Walmart and see all the Spider-Man toys.
That's true. I'm not a huge Spider-Man on a motorcycle toy fan, but it's nice to see from the Bobby standpoint how he thinks things would be rocking a motorcycle, the team forming together, Fire, Ice, Cat, Lady, and Nova and Spider-Man all rocking into things and really getting into the action together.
And then at the final, getting into the final parts of the book, it shows everyone just sitting down after they've like said all their theories on what they think Spider-Man or what Peter would do if he still was alive. And then it shows all of them and they're like, after saying all that stuff, I want to do something good. And Miles is like, I got an idea. And so after they're all just stuffed, they've eaten all they could. So they're like, let's just donate all this food. It shows them like giving food away and hugging the homeless people. Johnny has got a fireball in his hand, just showing off, putting on a good time.
They're doing a lot for the memory of Peter. I mean, Peter was all about helping people. He was all about helping people who couldn't help themselves. And I mean, they really gave a lot of memory to it before all kind of coming back to the house and exchanging awkward hugs. Coming right back again full swing to the awkward Gank and Gwen Stacy relationship. Are they gonna hook up? Are they not? Are Kong and Kitty gonna get back together? Are potentially Miles and Aunt May gonna get together? There's a lot of awkward hugs, we don't really know, and that all kind of leads into the very end and probably the biggest bombshell that they could have dropped on us, a random character.
It shows over the hedge, over the fence, whatever this person is looking at. It shows them a silhouette watching as everyone walks away. And it looks very similar to a certain Spider-Man that preceded Miles Morales. It looks very similar to Peter. It even has the older haircut where he had like the little swoopy hair parted down the middle. And so we don't know what this could be. It could be a revived Peter somehow. It could be a clone. So many theories on what this could be.
Just mind-blowing number of theories, and I really like that it kind of is ambiguous looking. You really don't know if it is Peter, but there's so many hints, like with the hair, with the dangling bits on the side, that it could be Peter. And I'm interested as to how, since Miles is getting his own book now, it's officially the Miles Morales Ultimate Spider-Man. I'm wondering how throwing Peter in, his wrench that he could add to the system, might kind of affect things from now on, and how him being involved in no matter what way, shape, or form, being Spider-Man might kind of change things in the way that the universe is now.
One of the theories, or two of the theories that we've been talking about is Peter couldn't have died. He could have been like in a comatose state. Everyone thought he was dead. S.H.I.E.L.D. could have carted his body off after announcing he was dead to everybody. He could have been like had his mind wiped. He could have had amnesia or something. He's been locked away for like 2 or so years.
You never know what S.H.I.E.L.D. might be up to. You never know the crap that S.H.I.E.L.D. pulls.
It could have been the Scorpion clone. He did have the scorpion tail grafted onto his spine, but this is the comic books. there's so many ways that they could explain that that's gone, and he could like have the urge to go back and see his family, who he has genetic memories of because he is a clone.
And I mean, maybe it's another clone of Peter that Doc Ock had kind of stored away. Maybe it's another clone that's been wandering around that we didn't know about. There's a lot of possibilities when it comes to cloning and a lot of craziness. Maybe he's even a clone of Jessica Drew.
And then we get into the cover gallery at the back of the book where it counts down, because comic books, you don't know if they're actually doing what they say. They say things just to get a little bit of a sales boost, so they count it down for you just to make sure they actually hit 100 or 200.
They really hit on every single little potential side story and throw it in as a full issue. And I mean, it's cool that they were able to scrape up enough to get up to issue 200 and really build into Ultimate Comics Spider-Man and kind of put everything together.
You got Ultimate Spider-Man 1 through 133, then you've got the Ultimate 6 miniseries 1 through 7, then you got when it was relaunched, Ultimate Comics Spider-Man 1 through 15, and then they went back to the original numbering, and then it goes to 150 through 160. Then you got the Ultimatum Spider-Man Requiem, and that was a 2-issue thing.
Then you've got the official start of Miles.
Yes.
The official start of Miles starts the Ultimate Comics Spider-Man, where Miles kind of takes over, and then you've got the Cataclysm events.
Yes. And that goes through Ultimate Comics Spider-Man 1 through 28, then Cataclysm 1 through 3, and then you finally hit 200, and that is the end of the issue.
Now, this has been a really awesome issue to review and a really cool kind of story arc. I love that they brought back 2 variants, not only Miles, but also Peter, with a lot of their supporting cast and a lot of people in the background showing kind of what they did. He and I are both rocking the Peter issues because they're our absolute favorites. Peter's our favorite, just Spider-Man. The Ultimate Spider-Man is probably one of our favorite Spider-Mans of all time. Really hope you guys enjoyed the review. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and like this video. We've got everything from comic book reviews to get video game, collectibles, everything you can think of, all in one place.
And remember to stay thirsty.